Hello students, welcome back to Waterbrook Reviews with Zombi Wanderito. In our previous lesson, we explored the background of Adipo Sidang, the eminent Kenyan author, poet, playwright, and consultant on governance and cultural issues. We discussed at length his influential works, including the poetry collection Parliament of Owls, his award-winning novella, A Boy Named Coco, and his contribution to the literary world through his Agora theatre group. It is therefore important for me to state at this point that we need to move forward to the next level, and that is we are going to delve into the title of the play, Parliament of Owls. Why did this playwright, Adipo Sidang, choose the title Parliament of Owls? Does it have any significance in meaning? Does it have any symbolism? Does it have anything beyond just the title Parliament of Owls? Our objective in this lesson, or objectives in this lesson, is to analyze the symbolic, the metaphorical, ironic, and satirical elements of the title Parliament of Owls. Is there any symbolism? Is there any metaphorical reference? Is it ironical? Are there any other elements that we need to know about the title? That's what we'll be delving into. Secondly, we want to know, or we want to understand, how these elements contribute to the play's critique of political systems and governance. In other words, we need to know the depth into which Parliament of Owls criticizes or looks deeply into political systems and governance in the world, and in particular, Kenyan scenario. I've also said, or I've already said, that in our last session, we examined how Adipo Sidang's background and life experiences shape his writing. We discussed the significance of understanding the author's historical, cultural, and personal context to gain deeper insight into their work. Sidang's rich philosophical background and his early exposure to rural folklore significantly influenced his literary voice and thematic concerns. And we looked at the thematic concerns of this author, Adipo Sidang. Now, today, we are going to get into the topic, the Parliament of Owls, the title and its significance. The title, Parliament of Owls, a play, serves as a rich and layered entry into the points and the themes, the messages of Adipo Sidang's work. It is therefore not an idle title. It is pointing us to what he wants to cover, Parliament, and the people who occupy that house, that Parliament, and their behavior, the way they look at the world, that is their worldview, and other things surrounding the governance of the nation that is covered in this particular title, this particular book. The title, as we have said, is symbolic. It is ironic. It is metaphorical, and it is satirical. I will be looking at each one of these points that I've raised and justify why I've said that the title is symbolic, it is ironic, it is metaphorical, it is satirical. Each aspect is contributing to our deeper understanding of the play and how it critiques the political system and governance in the setting or in the environment where the work takes place. Let me look at the symbolic nature of the title. And In looking at the symbolic nature of the title, I will look at two things, the two words that are in the title, parliament and olds. The term parliament denotes an august institution, a hallowed institution, a very important institution that is central to democratic governance. In any nation, parliament is the epicenter, the central point, the pivot of lawmaking, policy formulation, and oversight of the executive. What do I mean by oversight of the executive? Executives all over the world could have excesses because they have the instruments of power. They could oppress the people, they could deny them their rights, they could withdraw some privileges, and they can use them, those powers they could use, although it has been allocated or it has been given to them by the constitution, they can easily misuse. And therefore, we require a very strong parliament to do checks and balances. Parliament symbolizes democratic ideals. It symbolizes accountability. It symbolizes the advancement of societal developments. However, in the context of the play, Parliament of Olds, this institution is juxtaposed, put together with the olds. What is the significance of olds and juxtaposition of parliament and olds? In various cultures, olds can symbolize wisdom and vision. Yet, in some other cultures, it is seen as a harbinger of bad omen. This dual symbolism reflects the contradictory nature of the parliamentary institution in this play. In other words, the parliament is august, is very important, but juxtaposing it with the olds is bringing another aspect of our understanding, that the parliament in question could be, is not serving the role or the responsibility that it has been given by the society. Despite being expected to embody wisdom and visionary leadership, the parliament in this play is riddled with pettiness, self-interest, and corruption. You see this in Act 2, where the debate about the Twilight Law is taking place. But instead of focusing on the merits and demerits of this law, they are focusing on side issues, issues that are non-issues, issues that do not add value to the debate. The presence of olds suggests a parliament that, instead of guiding the nation towards prosperity, advancement, promotion, it is leading the country towards doom and disaster, oppression and suppression. There is a lot that we can talk about in this realm, in this space. But by and large, the parliament is leading the nation towards a direction where the people who are being led will rise up in arms. They feel oppressed. There is despondency, lack of hope entirely, because parliament is not solving the national problem that is supposed to be solving, but it is instead looking at the occupants' own selfish interests. Thus, the symbolic use of alls highlights the degradation, the lowering of a supposedly hallowed, elevated institution into one that brings about nothing more than negative consequences. In other words, the symbolism in this title, Parliament of Alls, is very evident, and it prepares us to a critique. The approach that Adipo Sidang is going to take is not of glorifying Parliament, is not of glorifying the leadership, but of criticizing the leadership. Allow me to go to the next point. How is Parliament of Alls, the title Parliament of Alls, how is it metaphorical? If you look at the word Parliament of Alls, you'll see it is a metaphor. The title, therefore, is metaphorical, suggesting the Parliament is metaphorically owned by alls. Parliament. Who owns it? The alls. This implies that those who dominate the Parliament are like alls. In this text, the alls are the ones that do the bidding here. But it is as a kind of a comparison that the alls here symbolize the Parliament in the waking world or in the world of reality. That the people who occupy Parliament in the nation or the setting in this particular play are like alls, creatures that despite their reputed wisdom bring misfortunes to the nation. The metaphor extends to the actions and character of the parliamentarians, very well captured in Act 2. The parliamentarians, instead of enacting just and fair laws, manipulate the system for personal gain. There is corruption, there is vendetta, there is propaganda. The parliament skewed in representation and biased in its registration. It mocks the principles of democracy and justice. The metaphor underscores the idea that the Parliament is exclusive domain of some few individuals. The group of people who support a certain system or a certain person. And in true democracies, Parliament is supposed to be the voice of the people. But the idea is being ridiculed in Parliament of Alls by having a section of people taking over the leadership of Parliament. It stifles the voices. It gags the voices of the minority, or rather the majority, because the minority are the ones who are governing, but the majority are the ones who are being carried by the vehicle called oppression, nepotism, and all the negatives that political leadership brings on board. Then how is this title ironic? The title is deeply ironic. Parliament, an institution meant to be serious, dignified, and wise in order to push the country to the next level, in order to govern a nation, in order to guide the laws, in order to guide the checks and balances, is portrayed as a circus dominated by a few and dominated by trivialities. Small non-issues take a lot of time during debates. They are placing governance and proper democratic ideals on the periphery and allowing trivialities to take charge. The olds, expected to symbolize wisdom, exhibit none in their deliberations, in their intentions, or even in their outcomes. The irony is further emphasized through the outcomes of the laws that are being put in place. Further to this, the character of Moneybags in Act 2, who is the speaker, manipulates the legislative process for his own selfish benefit and those like him. The irony lies in the contrast between the expected conduct of parliamentarians and the parliamentary body and the actual absurdity and corruption depicted in the play. This ironic portrayal underscores the discrepancy, the gap between the ideal democratic space and the real political governance. And that is why we are being prepared to offer our criticism or our critique of the political governance in the setting. And finally, let me look at the satirical nature of this title, Parliament of Wolves. The author uses humor and exaggeration to critique the leadership of the country in the setting. Through the actions and antics of the parliamentarians who are olds, the play satirizes the shortcomings, the flaws and failures of the political leadership in the setting. The pettiness, the corruption, the intrigues and lack of vision among the olds serving as parliamentarians is a mirror of the real-life political systems, especially the setting that is an African nation, exposing their shortcomings. The satire is not just a critique, but a call to action, highlighting the need for genuine wisdom and integrity in governance. That is why towards the end of the play, we see change coming. By depicting the parliamentarians or parliament as an absurd assembly of self-serving individuals, the play calls into question the legitimacy and effectiveness of the current political leadership as it is. In conclusion, the title Parliament of Wolves, a play, is a multifaceted reflection of the play's themes and messages. It uses symbolism, metaphor, irony, and satire to critique the state of political leadership and governance in the setting, urging the audience to reflect on the true meaning of democracy and the role of those institutions to serve the populace. Before we bring this session to an end, let me recap the key points. We have seen that the title is symbolic, ironic, metaphorical, and satirical. It serves as a rich and layered entry into the message, into the themes of Adipo Sidang's work. We have seen it is symbolic because Parliament represents a crucial institution for democratic governance, lawmaking, and policy formulation. And all symbolize wisdom and vision in some cultures, but a harbinger of bad omen in others. Therefore, Parliament, in this Parliament of Walls, is expected to be wise and visionary, but we see pettiness, self-interest, and corruption. The presence of all signify a Parliament that is leading the nation to doom, highlighting its degradation as an institution that is important to an institution that is not significant. Number 3, we have seen that it is metaphorical. The title means that the Parliament is owned, excuse me, it's owned by alls. And that is why there is exclusion. There is mistreatment of other people or other animals who are not part of Parliament. And Parliament is making laws only to favor the alls, and the others are oppressed and suppressed. We have seen it is ironic because Parliament is a serious and dignified institution, but it is portrayed as a circus dominated by trivialities. Alls are expected to symbolize wisdom, but they exhibit none or in their actions and outcomes. The character of moneybags manipulates the legislative process for personal benefits. The irony highlights the discrepancy between ideal conduct of Parliament and the actual absurdity and corruption in the Parliament, in the text, Parliament of Walls. Finally, we have seen that it is satirical. It is satirical because it brings out human exaggeration to criticize the Parliament as it is set up in the setting. The antics of alls in Parliament expose the flaws, the weaknesses, and failures of political systems. The play highlights the need for genuine wisdom and integrity in governance. The satire calls into question the legitimacy and effectiveness of a current political leadership. In conclusion, we have seen that the Parliament of Alls, the title, is multifaceted reflection of the message and the themes that we expect in the play. To leave you at that point, my dear listeners, but I want to pose a question so that you can discuss it in an essay form. Discuss that the title Parliament of Alls is a multifaceted title that helps us to get into the themes and messages of the play. Discuss. And in the next clip, we will be looking at setting.